It all seems somewhat difficult to pull off, but we're actually pulling it off.
Guys, I'm hearing all this chatter. Did you just take out a bank?
We didn't just take out a bank, but we did get Jordana Brewster, aka Mia Toretto, to talk Fast Five. Jordana, welcome to our binge of Fast and Furious.
Thank you.
I mean, thanks for being here, and also congrats for being our guest on the episode in which we break down the greatest movie of all time. Like, I'm not even...
Yeah.
Right?
I'll say it. I'll say it. Like, I mean, not only just the best Fast and Furious movie, which is like such a compliment already, but like, I don't know. This is my personal favorite movie of all time. So I'm really excited that you're here to kind of dive into it.
I agree. I will say the one problem with it is that Michelle's not in it. I feel like that's the one flaw.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
that's a great point. I mean, luckily, I remember,
Right?
I remember in
No.
the theater, I mean, we'll get to it eventually, but like, this was really before you knew to stay for like after credit scenes. Like, you know, the superhero movies weren't really fully doing it yet, but I remember being in the theater and like that reveal. First, Eva Mendes showing up.
You need to look at that.
I was like, oh my God, I'm already excited. And then the Michelle like reveal, you're like, okay, at least we're getting her back, even if she wasn't in this one. Did you always
Yeah.
know that? I mean, not to like jump too ahead, but like, did you always know that she was gonna come back, or was that a surprise even to you?
With those end shot cameos, those are always a surprise. I feel like those always happen after the fact.
Oh,
Which makes
so with
for
the
everybody.
first time that you saw it, was it in the theater, like for the premiere or something?
I feel like I heard rumors about it, but wasn't really sure. I knew it was in the making, and I was like, oh my God, that would be so awesome. But I didn't know whether it was going to happen. And then I was really, really happy.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I already have expressed my Fast Five fandom, but on every episode, I feel like I have to tell a specific story to really like get a glimpse into how much I love this movies. And for Fast Five, and this might really speak bad of my parents, but when Fast Five came out,
Let me just tell you that I saw the movie when I did my homework with my 7-year-old son. So I don't really think that your parents failed as bad.
I mean,
as
maybe
I
we're just
did.
all great parents all around there, because my parents let me pick my brother up from middle school and out early to go to see it on opening day in IMAX. Like, I don't know why a 7th grader was allowed to check out of school early, and I don't know what the excuse we gave. But we were there like 1 p.m. Friday while the rest of his classmates were still at school. So maybe that is great parenting. I don't know.
I love that. You know what? It's great parenting because you remember that, right? And that's
Yeah.
like, so I think that's pretty epic of your parents. I
They'll
love
be
it.
happy to hear that. I'm sure maybe they felt a little nervous about it at the time, but it all came around and paid off.
That's perfect. Like a perfect, like, write the note. It's a special appointment today. We have to go make sure we do this.
He's got to see the orthodontist /
Yeah.
go to the movies.
How we kind of wanted to start all these episodes is, you know, a great man once said that he lived his life a quarter mile at a time and nothing else mattered for those 10 seconds or less. So how would you, in 10 seconds or less, how would you summarize Fast Five?
Oh my gosh, Fast Five is gritty. Fast Five is about Brazil. Fast Five has really good music. Fast Five the plot is like super easy to follow, which makes it really fun. Like you're in the ride the entire time. Fast Five has the best action, and Fast Five has Gal Gadot as well. Like the intro of Gal Gadot, I think was also such a good intro.
Fast knew before anyone.
Sexy legs, baby girl. What time do they open?
They open the same time as I pull this trigger. Want me to open them?
I felt like
Yeah.
I knew before anyone. Like everyone like fell in love with
Yeah.
her, you know, that didn't watch Fast and Furious, like with Wonder Woman. But I was like, oh no, she's our Giselle before she was your Wonder Woman. Like, remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's all about the voice too, because you see this beautiful creature and she's like this tall, lithe creature, and you're kind of like, oh my God, she's so stunning. But then her voice has so much power and she's so commanding that she just, you know, I love the scenes between her and Tyrese and Luda because they keep poking at her and she's just like, keep trying. Whatever.
Yeah. She rolls with it so easily.
Yeah.
I remember like when she was cast as Wonder Woman, it was especially because like after we see 6 and what happens to her character, it was like, oh, she's back, thankfully. So in a way, I definitely felt like someone I was protective of after seeing Fast 5 and Fast 6, and then where she goes from there is amazing. But to jump back, like when and I know you said that you just watched the movie, but when you think of Fast 5, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Shooting in Puerto Rico. And when we went back to Brazil, it was because I grew up in Brazil, and Rio is where I decided to be an actress. And I always had these like huge dreams of going to premieres, and the fact that I got to attend the premiere with my grandma next to me and my cousins and my sister, like it was just amazing. And I just, I was watching the movie with my boyfriend and with my son, and they were like, okay, is that Brazil or is that Puerto Rico doubling for Brazil? And like, I knew all the ins and outs, and I was like, no, we're actually shooting at a favela in Rio. And then that actually is in Puerto Rico and it's doubling, and here's what we did for this. And I loved that a lot of the action in Fast 5 is actually practical. It's not a lot of special effects. It's actually Justin like mounting like the stunt so that it lines up perfectly. And it all seems somewhat difficult to pull off, but we're actually pulling it off, which I think is really, really fun. And some of it, because you watch these movies and you're at the premiere and you're so nervous and you're kind of self-conscious. But when I saw it now, I think 10 years after the fact, which is crazy to me, I really appreciated the action. Like it goes on you're just like, there's no way this is going to keep going. Like there's no way that, like the scene where Paul's almost surfing on the car, and then they crash in the water, and I'm like, okay, this is where credits are going to go. And I'm like, oh no, it's not credits. I'm actually like, it was almost like watching it for the first time. It was such a treat.
My Fast fandom aside, like I always tell people, like I think this is the best action movie of all time. Like it's kind of like what you said. It's not this crazy, and like obviously as the series goes, you guys get bigger and bigger with your stunts and with your action, and like that stuff is still incredible. But like something like the safe scene, or just like you said, kind of that sequence like with the train and with Paul and Vin driving off the cliff, like that stuff is like I watch that and I'm like, I don't even know how they did that, you know what I mean, like that. But like you can also see how it is possible. It's not like this out of world action, which again is like I think what's so great about this. For you, what
and I think Justin loves that, right? Like Justin Lin, our director, and who I also texted. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rewatching this and it's so good. And he was like, I know, that was a really fun one. Like I think it has a special place in our hearts. And I think Justin's always, because have you seen Better Luck Tomorrow, his first film?
Yeah.
So good. Right? Like that's where I fell in love with Justin's work. And then I worked with him on Annapolis, but I feel like he's always trying to get back to that sort of hand-to-hand, gritty, like handheld camera. And the scene in the next Fast has one of those like action sequences where Michelle and I are just like getting dirty, and it's not a lot of special effects, and that's going to be really. I
remember
really cool.
Catching a glimpse of that in the trailer. I feel like for Fast 9, I was like, oh, I was excited. To see you getting in on the action, which is like always cool, which I'm sure for you is great too.
Okay. It is. And I also campaigned for that hardcore. Like I had a guest spot on Magnum, and Justin's a producer for Magnum. So this is so embarrassing because it's me totally whoring myself out, but whatever. Hopefully we can say that on the podcast. I would send him stills of me or video of me on set being like, this is what I can do, Justin. Like,
amazing.
So I did that. And then I started taking Taekwondo lessons in LA. And I was like, this is a little bit more of what I can do, Justin. And you're like, I get it, Jordana. You will have an action scene. But then once we got to England and we were shooting, and I was, the funny thing is, I'm very methodical, so I'd have to practice every single day. And I was like, okay, so it's this move and then this move and then this move. Okay, would you like to rehearse tomorrow? Yes, I would. Whereas Michelle like shows up a day before, she looks at the move, she's like, yeah, I got it. And I appreciate it, and I'm just like, okay, that's why she's Michelle. She's incredible.
Yeah. She's had like action scenes to do forever, so.
Totally. She's like, yeah, I understand what this is. Yeah, I got it.
So I guess like getting into Fast Five, like you do get a little in of the action in that too. But and then when you went into that movie, did you know that? Like when you first saw the script, first heard about the concept, did you already know that you'd be able to do a little bit of running around?
I knew that there was a little more running around. I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't realize that like the favela chase scene. I didn't realize how much fun that would be. I didn't realize that we'd be jumping off of rooftops. I mean, I think Justin, he was smart to do this because I am a little bit of a nervous Nelly. And so if he said like, okay, you and Paul are going to jump off a roof, I would have been like, no, just like, please use my stunt double. Like, it's all good. But I got to set that day. We were shooting in Puerto Rico and I had this harness and I was like, what is this for? I don't know. And they're like, oh, well, you're jumping off a roof and you have to wear the harness with the rope attached. And I was like, no one discussed it. Like, what are you talking about? But then Paul was so sweet. Paul was like, I gotcha. Like, don't be nervous. This is going to be awesome. But if you do look at, when I rewatched it, you can see my face was like this. I'm so nervous. It's like, because he kept saying, you guys have to be in sync. So it's choreography. It's like 1, 2, 3, jump.
Let's go.
1, 2, 3, jump. So we had to do that a couple of times. But then my face is still like, it's very funny. They should have CGI'd a cooler looking face, but whatever.
I feel like that fits for the character.
Oh yeah, you're right. It does fit. Yeah, because I was also, Mia was pregnant. And then the other really funny thing is I split my hand open on those roofs because we were jumping from roof to roof, and one was really gnarly, and I split my hand open, needed stitches. And Justin reminded me that he kept the bandage on my hand. He didn't CGI that out. He's like, that's your badge of honor. Oh. You're badass that day. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's such a great sequence, but also like, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm so invested in like Mia and Brian, but like, it also feels like a real sweet moment, like right before you guys jump, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you could just feel that kind of, connection between those two characters, which obviously was like built up, over so many movies. But like, did you know going in, like, as you got the script, as you started pre-production, like, did you realize like, oh, this one's bigger? Like, obviously, like, Fast 4 was like such a huge hit and like brought all of you guys back together, but like, I feel like Fast 5 was a like kind of a transition film, and like it really took things up a level and kind of maybe move things in a different direction past what you guys had done in the first few.
Yeah, I did realize it because of the scope, because we were traveling to Brazil because of the addition of Dwayne. I think that also made it bigger. And I just remember working really hard. As soon as I got the script, I was like, oh my gosh, Mia's in this one a ton. Like, this is going to be so much fun. And I didn't take that lightly. I worked my ass off. I remember working with my coach and breaking down the scenes. And yeah, I just wanted to be as prepared as possible. So I was just so excited. So excited. And I loved that, like, with the giant Hummer scene where I'm driving the truck. It's not a Hummer, it's a truck. I'm driving the truck and we're escaping. And I just wanted all of that stuff to be completely believable, So yeah, I didn't want to let Justin down. So it was just, that was my favorite experience for sure of all the fasts.
Does it feel even, like, you could tell it was special then, but does it feel even bigger looking back on it now, like 10 years later? Like, technically, like, you guys did it before the Avengers, like this huge team up.
We did. I mean, I just couldn't believe that 10 years has passed. When I watched it, I was like, wait, what year did we make that? And my boyfriend was like, 10 years ago. I was like, what? Seriously? Yeah. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I also love the fact that we brought back Matt Scholes. It was so much fun to work with him. But just that, I think it also set the stage for all of us, what Justin keeps going back to, like the warehouse, the team members coming back. Like, I love how he sets that up, and it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but not really. And that sort of also set it up for like a bunch of misfits, which really form the family.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was your first time, we mentioned Gal at the top, but like this was really your first time working with people who had been in some of the movies, previously, whether it's Gal, Tyrese, Luda, Sung. Like, what was it like? Obviously, you had so much experience, with Paul and with, Vin, but what was it like kind of getting to work with the rest of the crew here?
Well, funnily enough, I did work with
Annapolis,
Tyrese
yes.
on Annapolis with Justin. Yeah. So that was kind of like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Because we worked in Philadelphia for a long time on that film. But yeah, like I was starstruck by Luda. I mean, he's massive, right? And he's the nicest dude, the most humble, most hardworking guy. And then Gal, I was just like, who is this stunning creature? Sung, it was the first time I worked with Sung, and now we're super close, and he's really close with my son. He's almost, on the last Fast, he was like the godfather to my son. My son kept going into his trailer and stalking him. He's like, Sung, let's talk about this now. And we're philosophizing on set. It was really cute. But yeah, I remember the addition of The Rock being a super big deal and being starstruck by him and knowing that, wow, this franchise just keeps getting bigger and bigger. How cool.
Did you guys have time to sort of get to know each other at all before filming started? Or was it just like jump right in, you sort of figure out that chemistry during the scenes?
We're usually jumping right in and the chemistry's there. It's with most of us, there's this familiarity that already exists. And then with each new element that comes in, we sort of bring them into the fold. There's just this familial environment. And then with each new element that comes in, it just keeps just getting bigger and bigger. So
you mentioned being starstruck by Dwayne, and like, obviously it feels like he brought such an energy to this movie, like energy and a lot of sweat. I always rewatching Fast Five, I'm like, man, Hobbs is just not used to this Brazil weather. He is just like fully sweating it up. But like, could you feel that energy, even though like obviously you had a few scenes with him in there, especially towards the end? Could you feel like this energy that he brought?
Oh my gosh, and Elsa too.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Elsa. And by the way, Chris Hemsworth visited, and that was before
wow.
Thor. Or maybe it was right as he was getting
That sounds
cast.
right.
So it was just like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful couple on earth. But yeah, the energy was just, it was like everyone was there to do their best, and to bring their A game. And I love working in that environment because we all know that we're working on something really special and we don't take it for granted for
That's always one of my favorite fun facts to tell people when they're like, I was like, Chris Hemsworth is married to a Fast and Furious star. I just want, I always make sure people know that. I'm like, that's a power couple. Like, you put respect on both of their names.
And she's the most, first of all, the most stunning person on this planet, but also so gracious and lovely.
Come prepared.
I'm motivated.
It's really nice when you get to be on location with a group because then you're forced to hang out with each other. You all don't get to just go home. And I remember having these really fun dinners with everyone. And we would also travel to Vieques, which was like an hour away, and we would all hang out. It was really fun. It was a really fun time.
That's great. So we know, or you can, I guess, can tell us if this is true, but I feel like we heard that you didn't have your license before the first movie. Mm-hmm. And then by this one, Mia's a little bit more involved. Did you get to do more in that way and sort of feel more comfortable? Like you were doing other stunts, but when it came to the driving, do you feel like you have that big sequence at the beginning of the movie? Did you get to do more of that practically?
With the beginning, and that's also a funny tidbit, with the beginning, I feel like those bangs were fake.
Oh,
and
wow.
I keep debating. I'm like, now I have bangs, and I'm like, do we want bangs for the next one? I don't think we do. I had them in 4, and I don't think I want to bring them back for no. But I think those were like clip-ins, and I think we were on the top of a parking lot at Universal, and I was just like faking it. And it's always so hard because when you see it, it makes so much sense when you see the movie. But when Justin's just like, okay, make a right. No. When I say right, you go left. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Just make it look cool, please. And he's like, okay, now you're looking at and I'm like, oh, okay, kind of pulled that off. So yeah, that was an afterthought shot at Universal in a parking garage. But I didn't get to do much practical driving. But I will say, when watching the movie with my boyfriend and kid, he was like, "That is how your mommy drives." Because like
Nice.
I am a pretty impatient driver. I do like speed. So yes, I didn't get my license until I was 18, until the first movie. But once I got it, I am kind of a speed freak, I will say.
My favorite part of that opening sequence is like when it cuts to the news and it's like, oh, but like this crazy crash, but like no one died, which is like such a miracle. But I love that we had to make sure that our heroes were still heroes. They weren't just killing random people.
I know. And the bus just like spins and spins and spins and spins. I know that, but also that was so good, right? Because you don't know whether that's CGI. I feel like they spun that bus a gajillion times. I mean, now we have the technology where Justin's filming a scene and he also has the footage of what stunts are doing, and he also has the footage of what CGI looks like. So it's a different game, you know. It's really cool. Back in the day, it's like if someone wasn't there, or if I had to pretend you're acting with a tennis ball, and those days are over.
I think what's cool is that here we talk about how much more involved with the action you are, but also this is at the same time, as you mentioned earlier, like Mia's pregnant, and like we find that out in this movie. Like, what was that? Do you remember those conversations with whether it's, you know, Justin or Chris Morgan or Vin, like when you find out that, you know, this is directions going for Mia, like what were those conversations like?
I don't really remember those conversations. We're having, let me think. I remember I kept losing weight on set, and they were like, "Jordana, you're pregnant." And I'm like, I know, but like we're shooting in the tropics and all these action scenes. And so I had to be very conscious about that. But I was excited to add that to sort of cement the relationship between me and Brian. And also, it's such a sweet turning point when Dom wants to split everyone up again. And I'm like, no, we're staying together because there's something massive at stake here. Yeah, it was really
That's one of my
sweet.
favorite. Oh, sorry.
And I.
No, I was just saying that's
go
one of my
ahead.
like little favorite moments. Like that sequence that you just talked about when they get out of the sewer and like they're like, let's split up, and then you're like, no, like we're not. And then it's just when she says, you know, that she's pregnant, like the reaction on Paul's face and then on you know, Vin's face, it's like such a sweet scene.
Promise me we stick together.
Promise. Family just got bigger.
Oh, and we did that one over and over and over again because Justin will keep going until he gets what he wants. And I was like, I don't know, like, what are you looking for, Justin? And I also remember Paul kept saying, he said, "You're kidding me," right? In the actual scene, but he kept saying, "You're shitting me." Justin was like, "Oh, you can't say you're shitting, like you can't say that." But it was just spontaneous because it was like this outburst of joy, like, yes. That was a really, really fun scene to shoot. And we were also fighting the rain that day. I remember having umbrellas there, and yeah, it was a really fun, sweet scene.
I think what also makes it so good is because it really mirrors what the audience is feeling. Like, I don't want to see them split up. I do want to see them make it through this together. So it's like both the reveal, but also just narratively, like really satisfying for us too. Like, yes, this is a team up, and people just kind of keep coming together from there, which is a lot of fun.
I mean, we're always stronger together. If you notice, there's kind of this trend where every time we split up, we trouble, it goes down, right? It doesn't go very well.
Yeah, exactly. You talked about, this is something that Derek and I actually weren't sure about before this, but how much of it did you spend actually in the favela in Brazil? And was it a significant amount of time there, or was most of it in Puerto Rico?
So we spent about, I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks in Brazil. And then a lot of it was in Puerto Rico. We spent a couple of months in Puerto Rico. A lot of it was in Atlanta. Some of it was in LA, but yes, a good portion was in Puerto Rico.
Had you gotten to visit at all? Because I know you spent, like you said, part of your childhood there. Had you gotten to visit much before going back for this movie, or was it kind of a new experience all around?
It was a new experience. It was a new experience for sure. And then we got to go back to promote it, which was really fun.
That's great. Do people rely on you to like, what are your favorite spots, or what are the things we have to do here?
Yes, but and also sometimes like some of the actors, we had some Brazilian actors and then some Spanish speaking actors that were pretending to speak Portuguese, so I kind of knew the difference. And then I was also like, Justin, I got to speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
Like, cool, but like, how are we going to explain that? Like, why does Mia speak Portuguese? I was like, I don't know. But if you notice my accent, Mia's accent's like perfect, and there's no explanation, but whatever.
Yeah, that is something that I was wondering. I was like, they don't ever tell us. It's just sort of accepted that at some point.
Just picked it up.
It adds some mystery. I like it. It. Just a little Easter egg that we never get answered.
It'll be explained down the line. It'll be explained.
Totally. You talked about a big part of your excitement for kind of the pregnancy storyline was cementing that Mia and Brian relationship, which obviously, as I said earlier, like. I just, even watching them, you two on the train together, like the two characters, like talking about running away together, to these, countries of no extradition. It's like so sweet. And you're just like, as an audience member, you're like so invested in this relationship by that point. I mean, what was it like with, obviously this is your third movie with Paul at this point, playing this out. So what was it like kind of evolving this relationship and growing together, kind of on screen and off, and kind of evolving this partnership?
It was so easy. I mean, in the same way that it's very easy acting with Vin because we have a very big brother, little sister relationship. I mean, there was stuff that went down this year with COVID and decisions I made that I went to Vin and he was like, no, you cannot do that, little sis. He is just like my confidant that I adore. In the same, so what happens on screen bleeds into real life. And in the same way, I had this relationship with Paul where the chemistry was so alive. Like, it was just so much fun to play together, and we had all of that is just I think it can't be replicated because I just loved him so much and he loved me. And it was just like when we talk about going to Goa and when we're like, just like you said, you see that spark and it's just, I don't know. It sounds so cliche, but it was just very easy between the two of us. And strangely enough, not to keep bringing up my kid, but we started watching this. I didn't realize there was a Disney movie with Paul where he plays this surfer. Have you guys heard of this movie? It's called like The Krupels I don't know, but he was so good in it. He played, it was from like 1986 or something. He's like 15 or 16. He's so good. It was so nice seeing him as this kid in this really awesome movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just really flowed with him. It was very easy with him.
Had you guys talked at all? Because I read that 4, 5, and 6 were kind of loosely conceived as a trilogy so that there would be something of an arc. So did you guys get to talk about from 4 into 5 and from 5 to 6, like where Mia and Brian were going in that way?
With 6, oh my gosh, 6 was really difficult because with 6, is it 6? Yeah, I was stuck on a television show. I signed a contract and then I was stuck and then I wasn't able to participate in the film as much as I would have liked to, which was really heartbreaking for me. So it shifted from what it was supposed to be to a much lesser presence, which really killed me because I really missed my family. I feel like I missed out. But a lot of the time, the movies are evolving not as we go, not as we shoot, but I think it's easier for the creators to step back and think, okay, this is how I see the big picture. Or I think Vin can do that as a producer, but for the actors, when you're in it, like I try to focus on the moment and this project. It's hard to think like, okay, what's going to happen in 6? How's it going to evolve? But I will say that the beauty of being a part of this franchise is now I get to look back and go, oh my gosh, like now I can see the canon and go, oh, this is where we started. And that's something I'm definitely going to do before the next one is I'm going to watch the whole thing to really place everything in context. It's definitely a gift.
I love to hear that little nugget about, sadly, your limited availability for Fast 6, because I feel like that explains a lot about, what happens
So
both
much.
with you and with Paul in Fast 6. Like that, because they end up sending Paul on his own little journey, across to a different country.
You don't understand. Poor Justin. It was this very dramatic experience for me, and I was texting Justin. I was calling Justin. Poor Justin was in London. I was like, Justin, please don't come out of the movie. I'm trying so hard. And he was like, Jordana, don't worry, I got you. But this is really hard. I've got my crew's working nonstop, and I have to keep rewriting things and shifting things. So no, I think Justin had one vision in mind, and then we got derailed. So I'll never make that mistake again. Let's just say that.
Do you remember what it was supposed to be originally for Mia in that movie?
There was a larger set piece with me getting kidnapped and me being there for more of the time, and then we just sort of had to condense it into a week.
That makes
Got
sense.
it.
Back to Fast 5, we talked about a lot of different scenes, but I don't know, is there now, especially it's so fresh having rewatched it, do you have a favorite scene from Fast 5? So many to pick from. Every scene is gold, so I don't know. It's a tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite scene is definitely the action scene with Paul, where, so the one where Vin is running ahead of us, and we're all within the same. So it's like this giant set piece, the favela, but then Vin is running from The Rock, and then he's meeting Elsa. I'm switching between real names and character names. And then Paul and I are also on their feet, on their tails, whatever. But I just remember being so nervous, not wanting to let anyone down, and then Paul supporting me. And he was like, I got you. And then there are these great pictures where we're behind the monitors and we're just like, yes, we got it. And just that sense, that's what it was like. We just, for all of us, we just wanted this to be the best possible. We don't want to let down our fans, and we don't want to let each other down. And that was just the best. That was the best scene, because it again, with my bandage on and again, and also it's a really long scene, but it just keeps you on the edge of your seat. So that's definitely my favorite one.
You didn't let any fans down with this one. I'll keep saying it. What an incredible movie.
Yeah.
So there's that
Every
definitely
moment
worked out. I mean, what?
And it also showed my home. It showed Rio in the most beautiful way, which I loved.
Is there a scene you wish you were in? Is there maybe you're furious that you weren't in a certain scene?
Okay, so Justin did tell me that I was going to be in a bathing suit. And then I was never in a bathing suit, right? So I was working out and getting ready. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so ready to show Mia as sexier. And it never happened. So that kind of bummed me out a little bit. Not that I'm asking for it now, because no thanks. But back then I wanted to be in I think it was going to be some kind of fun scene with me, Tyrese, and Chris on the beach. But the other thing I'm reminded of when I rewatch the films is, I think in real life I'm so sometimes shy or a little bit soft-spoken. And when I watch, I'm like, oh my God, Mia's such a badass. Yes, I love that. It's so cool. And even on the last Fast that we just shot, I remember Michelle being like, girl, speak up. Come on. What do you think of this? And Justin was doing the same thing. He was like, well, I want your opinion on this. And I was like, and to see Mia and be like, oh, she's such a good example for women out there. And she's even a good example for me, to just sort of own it. I love that about her.
Yeah, I think that this movie sort of is pivotal for her in the sense that, and before now, Mia, Dom has always wanted Mia to go on and do other things and sort of not get wrapped up in the same life. And this is the first instance where she's, fully all in, starting from the very beginning with helping to break Dom out of that bus. Is that something that you think about now, as, you're deeper into who she is? She's a mother now as well. What do you think about sort of Mia's arc? Like, what is it for you when you're trying to play it? How she's growing up, what her choices are? What do you think she's the most, I guess, invested in at this point? Is it being part of the craziness, or?
It's not being part of the craziness, but I think, well, I mean, that's the other theme I love about Five. It's sort of like, it is Robin Hood, right? Like when we burn the cash, that's another one of my favorite scenes. It's like, we're not in it solely for the money. Like we are into what is right, and we do stand for family, and we will do whatever we need to do for each other. And in the same way, I will do whatever I need to do for my brother. I will do whatever I need to do for my family. And it's this code that they live by that I think is very, like, that's really honorable. And I love seeing her strength in that. And she's often put in these impossible positions, whether it's between, choosing between Brian and Dom. Like, you remember that epic scene in the first movie where she's just like looking at her brother and she's like, oh my God, and then looking at the love of her life. And then in the next one, it's more about, Jacob and Dom, and holding these two opposites together. And she is sort of the balancing energy, right? Yeah. And I love playing with that. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. But I also think it'd be really fun to have more scenes with Natalie and Michelle, and to really have more action, because I think that would be in the future. I think it's really fun playing with that, because who doesn't want to be a badass?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a scene that I want to ask you about is the big fight between Hobbes and Dom, which you're present for, and which is still, like, every time I watch it, I'm like, this is insane. Like, they're just like two beasts, like, going. Yeah, like it's crazy, and you got the front row seat for that. Like, what was it like filming that? And like, you're having to yell at the top of your lungs, like you're watching these two go at it. What was it like filming that one?
It was really, I mean, I think a lot of people have this joke, like, take a shot every time I scream, Dom! But I rewatched that scene, and I was like, that's really powerful, because it's like he's in a trance, right? Because he's taken back to what happened to him and led him to go to jail, and what sort of trauma he endured as a kid. And then I snap him out of it, because I'm the voice of reason that he will listen to. And he comes to and stops himself from ruining his life. And that's really powerful. I remember, because so I'm 40 now, I was 30. I remember in the moment shooting that scene being so intimidated, right? Like, it's all these dudes, it's all this testosterone, these like, Vin is a huge action star, The Rock is a huge action star, and I'm like, and I have to interrupt this? Like, what? But then I have to put myself aside and go, no. Mia's got she's going to be the badass here. And I love the amount of resonance that moment has. It's really good.
Yeah, something that I don't, not necessarily forget, but like you sort of referenced, is because earlier in the movie, the Hobbes character brings up Dom's, past and whatnot. So it does really feel like the stakes are really high. But it starts out as just sort of a big action set piece, but then it is really emotional too in that way, because you don't want him to go that far.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I remember, like, in the first scene where, not in the first scene, in the first movie, it reminds me a little bit of when Letty's like, Dom, let's go. Like, when she's just like, it's like the women have, I feel like the Fast and Furious franchise has always been really ahead of its time in terms of diversity, in terms of representing women with just as really strong. I remember when Michelle read her role, she was like, no, I'm not playing that. And then she changed it completely. And I don't want to speak for her, but I think it went from sort of a trophy girlfriend to this really layered character. And Universal and Vin and the franchise have always done a great job of that. So I'm really proud to be a part of that.
What a scene the last scene I want to ask you about specifically in Fast Five. Obviously, you're not actually pulling the safe in the car, but you have the funniest part, I would say, of that end sequence, like just like commentating back at the headquarters.
Guys, I'm hearing all this chatter. Did you just take out a bank?
What was it like filming that? Like, are you like just kind of on your own there? Like, are you getting to watch some like footage? Like,
yes, really hard. No, it's really hard. And by the way, my son again was like, "Mom, your role sucks in this part," and I was like, "Oh no," just because I'm not part of like the action. It's really difficult because you're given context, right? Like, and I have the hardest time as an actor reading action sequences. When I'm reading action sequences, I'm like, la 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 la. Like dialogue, I get totally into. Action sequences, I'm like, this crashes into this building, and then I just sort of zone out. So it's very hard to contextualize it and really understand. Oh, okay, now they're swapping the thing so that it's a different safe, and that's going to be the. And I don't really fully understand it until I watch the movie and I go, oh, that's what you were doing. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad I faked it. But it's very hard to contextualize. So you just kind of fake it till you make it. And Justin's like, okay, here's what's happening. And I'm like, but yeah, no, that's one of the hardest roles. And Natalie Emmanuel kind of has that role now. And she has all this jargon and all this like technical stuff. They're coming from the right, and then you're gonna have to. And I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. It's really hard. It's also really hard to memorize that stuff because you can't like picture. I don't know. It's hard.
That reminds me though, for in Fast Five, like it is the first time that we see that Mia has a little bit more of the tech expertise. Like, is that something that you guys talked about? Like, even when you first sort of got the script, or whatever, did you discuss that becoming a facet of her character?
We did. And I think it was also because I think it was a byproduct of me being pregnant and not being able to go out there with them. So This is how I'm going to direct them and lead them.
Okay, cool.
Kind of into the home stretch of talking Fast Five, we got to kind of go into what we call the final lap, a few kind of more rapid fire, hopefully fun questions. So I guess first off, like if you could pick one actor, whether it's from the Fast universe or just any actor to be in this specific movie. Maybe it's like someone who hadn't shown up yet in the Fast movies, or just an actor you would always have loved to see. Like, who should we put in Fast Five if there was like a world where we could do such a thing?
I'm sure I'm going to come up with the best answer in like 5 hours. I think I kind of got bummed that, no, I don't want to say that. That's going to be too controversial.
Oh.
I know. I feel like it'd be awesome to have Scarlett Johansson. I feel like she's such a badass. That would be really cool to have her in our universe.
Yeah.
I'd love to have Sandra Bullock in our universe.
I love that.
I mean, the addition of Charlize, I would love a scene with Charlize Theron because she's
so good.
So genius. That was such a great addition.
I loved imagining Charlize as like the bad guy in Fast Five. Like I think that would be an interesting. I mean, I love having her the bad guy later, but maybe we get a little taste of Charlize here, and then we would have gotten her more in Fast 8. Maybe that's what we could have done.
That'd be really cool. Also, it's such a bummer that Jesse died in the first one, right? Because I'd love to see him back.
That would have been amazing, especially because you get Vince too. Just have them both sort of play different roles in the overall job would have been.
I mean, what is death in Fast? And we could get Jesse back. I don't know. He maybe figured out a way. We got him into protection somehow. I don't know. We'll see. We're not going to give up on him.
All right. So next one, obviously having the family together in every movie is kind of sort of a big part of it. So what would you bring to the family barbecue?
You mean food-wise?
Yeah. Or anything.
Food-wise, I'd bring this drink from Brazil called a caipirosca, which is like lemonade with vodka in it. That's what I would bring.
That sounds nice.
In each of these interviews, we're trying to imagine what a spin-off or a prequel would be for each character. So let's maybe jump ahead. You guys wrap up the main series with Fast 11. I don't know. What do we think a Mia movie would look like? Do we go prequel there, or do you think there's a spin-off? I mean, what do you think?
I'd love to play Mia at in her 50s or 60s with what Brian's kids would be like in their in their teens or 20s, right? Like, what are they doing? How am I hiding out somewhere? Like, what's going on there? Do they get in some shit that then Vin and I need to rescue them from? Like, I think that would be really fun. So down the line, I think it can keep going and going because, generation, the kids can step up.
I love that.
We've been going long enough that's what I'm waiting for, is like getting the next gen involved. All right, so we also wanted to do, or I guess first ask you, you've kind of shared a bunch of tidbits, but is there something else that happened in filming that people just wouldn't believe or wouldn't even think to notice? Like when you were rewatching it, was there like something that you were like, oh, that was shot differently than sort of how it appears in the final film?
All the warehouse stuff was in Atlanta. That was really fun. And again, that like set up the caper part of like everyone meeting up, and I just love how that established that for future Fast and Furiouses. That's kind of it. There are inside jokes, but I couldn't see some of my co-stars again. They would kill me. But yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we have a good time.
You've given some good teases of what to expect for Fast 9 for all of us that are already like biting with anticipation. I still remember I was in like the office when the trailer dropped, and I had headphones. I was watching it, and I was just screaming, like I was like losing it watching it. Like whether it was the action or like the reveal of John Cena playing Mia and Dom's brother, and then like obviously like Han at the end. And then once it was over, I look around and like everyone was just staring at me like very concerned, not knowing what had just happened. But I mean, at the top we had you do like a 10-second summary of Fast 5. What would maybe be your 10-second tease of Fast 9?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man,
I'm so excited to see it, but I have not seen it yet. Yeah, hopefully I get to see it very soon.
Hopefully we all. Yeah, I'm ready.
But I think it's going to be pretty epic.
We would expect nothing less from Fast.
I know, right? Yes.
Well, Jordana, thank you for joining us and forever becoming a part of the Binge family and going through this all-time greatest movie.
Love it. Thank you so much.